When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Baker's, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Baker's worth it every time. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Hey everyone, welcome to this edition of Spin, Shuffle, Skip on the There Can Only Be One podcast channel, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. So here on this channel, we have a bit of a rule when it comes to episodes of There Can Only Be One, in that the artist has to have a discography with a minimum of 5 albums. But surprisingly, there are some big name artists who don't have that many albums, and today's topic is definitely one of those artists. That is Paula Abdul, and we're going to be talking about her debut album, Forever Your Girl. And here to join me is Forever My Girl, my lovely wife, Carrie. Carrie, how are you doing?
Oh, nice setup.
I thought so.
Love it. I love it.
So, first of all, to realize that Paula Abdul only has 3 albums to her name, a bit of a shock.
Is it really, though? Is it really? I mean, it's so lovely to see that hers is a career that surpassed the albums, right? She's not just the 3 albums, but her career has gone on to, I mean, first of all, she was a choreographer with
the LA Lakers.
Yes,
she was a Lakers girl, but she also worked with Janet Jackson on her tour. So, you know, Paula Abdul definitely had some credit going into the recording of that first album. But yeah, no, it's
not only that, but she did what? America's Got Talent?
No, American Idol.
American Idol.
American Idol.
I'm clearly not versed on
one of those American type reality shows. But I just find it funny because there are some artists where you sit there and say, oh, I only thought they had so many albums. And then you realize that their discography is way long because they kept on making music. Paula Abdul clearly transitioned into a non-music career, being a judge and all of the work that she has done. But here's the thing. Canada, you're in luck because Paula Abdul is getting ready to hit the road going through Canada with Taylor Dayne and Tiffany on the bill. So
love it. I had the chance to see Paula Abdul live, and oh my God, she literally seems like the kind of person that could be your best friend, like upon meeting her. She just seems so incredibly down to earth, incredibly sweet, incredibly grounded, and just so full of joy and life. And it's just so inspirational just to hear her talk in between the songs.
Yeah, so if you are planning on going out to see that tour, make sure you get your tickets. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to take her debut album, Forever Your Girl, and we're going to pick 3 songs each. A spin, a shuffle, and a skip. The spin is one that if the disc is in, this is the first one getting played. The shuffle, if it comes on during the radio, or if it happens to come on during shuffle play, we're in. The skip, now, doesn't necessarily mean that we would skip the song, but it might be the last song we play when the disc is in. Doesn't necessarily mean that the song is bad. It's got to fit into a category somehow. This is the skip. But let's talk about this album, though, because did it do a lot. The album was released June 21st, 1988, hit number 1 in the US, Canada, and Australia, and was the number 3 album of the year in the US in 1989, and stayed that way, was the number 6 album on the year-end charts in 1990. It is 7 times platinum in the US and Canada. It's also platinum in Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. There were 6 singles off of this one. In the US, Straight Up, Forever Your Girl, Cold Hearted, and Opposites Attract all hit number 1. Forever Your Girl also hit number 1 in Canada, and Opposites Attract also hit number 1 in Canada and Australia. Of all the songs that were released as a single, Knocked Out was the only one that did not crack the top 10. It peaked at number 41 in the US. This album is tied for second for most number 1 singles from one album with 4, a title shared with 6 other albums. By the way, the record is actually 5. Carrie, can you guess which 2 albums have that record?
You know what? I don't have a clue.
All right. So let me tell you then. Michael Jackson's Bad and Teenage Dream by Katy Perry. That is the record. 5 number 1 singles off of one album.
From Katy Perry.
From Katy Perry's Teenage Dream and Bad by Michael Jackson. Not Thriller, Bad.
I would have imagined, like, I can see Michael Jackson being one for sure, but maybe like Madonna?
Maybe a Madonna. I could have seen a Shania Twain as well, perhaps, with her Come On Over CD. But no, it is Michael Jackson's Bad and Katy Perry's Teenage Dream. 5 number 1 singles off of one album.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
But now it's time for Forever Your Girl, an album with 4 number 1 singles. So, Carrie, what is your spin pick off of this album?
Spin being the absolute go-to. Without a doubt, Straight Up, Now Tell Me. I'm not going to sing it. You're welcome.
Right. That is our gift to you. We're not going to do we're going to do our best not to sing. It's actually my pick as well for Spin. And I think because, now that being said, this album has a lot of really, really good production work on it. And there's a lot of good songwriters involved. Straight Up, to me, has a bit more of a dramatic flair to it instead of just straight radio bubblegum type pop. There's a bit of, I don't want to say dynamics, but there's a little bit more to this song. Between this and Cold Hearted, it's not just fluff pop. It is, there's something in the key changes, there's something in the chord progressions that kind of triggers my ear, where it's like, okay, I can get behind this. It's a little different than maybe a Debbie Gibson or maybe a Tiffany at that time.
Oh, hey now, watch out.
No. I'm just talking about the chord progressions.
Right.
It fits more into the kind of song that triggers my eardrums as opposed to something that is your typical 4-chord song.
Okay, you also have to think about the timing that this album came out. And that bubblegum pop princess type repetitive, and more on that later, but repetitive lyrically was the thing. That was radio play. That, if you wanted to have your song hit the charts, and clearly Paula Abdul and her production crew were very good at that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's kind of what you needed. And the entire album almost has a divide. I'm not sure if it was the same writers.
No, there were a lot of different writers involved in this. So Straight Up, this is, for me, my pick, your pick as well. So I guess we get to go straight to the shuffle picks here. So for me, my shuffle pick is actually the single that did not crack the top 10. Knocked Up is my shuffle pick. There's something about this song. And again, it kind of fits into the same kind of, I like the way it's written. I like the fact that it's not necessarily your bubblegummy pop song. This, to me, I think it works well in the number 2 slot. I don't know if I would have started the album with The Way That You Love Me. I'm fine with Knocked Out being the number 2 song on the album. I found that this was the pickup that the album needed as opposed to The Way That You Love Me.
Okay. Interesting.
There's also a really good guitar solo in this.
That's interesting because I'm not going to lie and I'm going to put it out there. I had 2 songs tying for my pass.
For your skip.
Knocked Out being one of them.
Fascinating.
And reason being, and I had mentioned it earlier, was lyrically the songs that are incredibly repetitive. And I don't think that I clued into this during the time that it was released. But when I did a re-listen, I was like, this song is so freaking boring that it literally just someone knock me out, please, because this song is incredibly repetitive. That and The Way That You Love Me. Like lyrically, it's almost like the writers were like, okay, we've got this catchphrase and we're just going to keep repeating it for about 3 to 5 minutes until the song is done.
Which is funny when you realize that the writers of this song are Babyface and L.A. Reid.
But there's no real meat to the song. It is literally just a fluff piece.
See, here's the thing. You're coming at this vocally, I think. For me, it's the musicality behind it. As soon as the guitar solo hit, I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm kind of liking this. So I liked there was almost a, for lack of a better term, a rock edge to this as opposed to, a song like The Way That You Love Me. So The Way That You Love Me, it's not my skip pick, but it's definitely one where like, okay, I've heard this before and I don't need to hear it again. Not saying it's not a good song. I'm just saying it wasn't tickling my eardrums, if you will.
Well, that's how I felt about Knocked Out. I'm sorry.
I get it, but you said it's on the list potential for your skip. We haven't figured out your skip yet, but your shuffle pick.
I am shuffling and always kind of going to Opposites Attract.
Oh, that's such a fun song.
Such a fun song. Lyrically, it's brilliant. I mean, it's so give and take, especially the dynamic with MC Scat Cat, right?
Oh yeah.
It's just a fun song. It's incredibly danceable. Found myself listening through the album and I went back to this one and maybe kind of danced around a little bit. No one was watching, so it didn't happen.
It should be noted that this song did win Best Music Video at the 1991 Grammy. So yeah, no, that video it's almost iconic. It really is. That late 80s, early 90s, like that video really cemented kind of the fun vibe that she was putting out there.
Oh my God, and seeing it live too. Like, first of all, Paula Abdul is an incredible dancer.
Mm-hmm.
So incredibly talented. But the energy that she puts into this song when it's live, so incredible.
All right, so now you mentioned you had a couple songs listed as your potential for the skip pick. Which one are you actually going with?
I'm going with Knocked Out.
You're going with Knocked Out?
Yeah.
That's okay. You know what? It's one of those things where that's why this show exists, because you can have two people listen to an album and hear different things in the songs, and for whatever reason, and dear listeners, by the way, if you go back to the very first episode of There Can Only Be One, when we covered Anthrax and we covered the Stomp 442 album, Carrie's pick was the one song I would have thrown off that album. So you can listen to albums very differently. There are no right or wrong answers, even though I completely disagree with your pick. But regardless of. See, for me, and maybe this is unfair, so I need to preface this. Sometimes you hear a song and it's a certain style and you're like, oh, that's okay, but it's not as good compared to a song off of a different album, because my skip pick is Next to You. So when it comes to a Paula Abdul ballad, if she had enough albums to qualify for There Can Only Be One, Rush Rush might have been my only one pick, because I freaking love that song. I think it's actually her best ballad and maybe her best song overall. Next to You, as a ballad, doesn't compare to Rush Rush, but maybe when this album had come out, it might have been a different feeling, because Rush Rush hadn't been written yet, hadn't been recorded yet, didn't exist as a song. So maybe it's unfair to compare a song to one that hadn't been released at the time, but the gift of hindsight, and when I say hindsight, I have to sit there and say that this album is 36 years old. Get me my walker. Get me my walker. But the thing is, as a pop album, it doesn't feel, I mean, it feels definitely of its time, but the production doesn't necessarily feel like it doesn't hold up. It still sounds good to this day. But for me, Next to You, it just didn't soar as a ballad. And Rush Rush proved that she can do a phenomenal ballad. Hindsight, maybe, but that's my pick, and I stick with it. All right, Carrie, thank you so much for this. Now, do us a favor. Remind our listeners what your spin, shuffle, and skip picks were.
I am spinning straight up. I am shuffling Opposites Attract, and I am skipping Knocked Out.
All right, and I am spinning straight up just like you did. I am shuffling Knocked Out because, damn it, I like that song. And I am skipping Next to You. Carrie, thank you so much. Dear listeners, make sure you get a chance to go out, get your tickets to that Paula Abdul tour. If you're in Canada, I'm sure you'll have a phenomenal time. Until next time, you guys know the drill. If there is an album that you want us to cover on Spin Shuffle Skip, or an artist that you want us to cover on There Can Only Be One, hit us up on social media at OnlyOneCast, or go to our website at notthatbadcast.com. And while you're there, check out our Coming Soon page so you can get your chime-ins on all the stuff that we're working on. Until next time, she's Carrie, I'm Jay. You guys are awesome. This is Spin Shuffle Skip on the There Can Only Be One podcast channel, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Take care.